The Bucks. It is Talking Buccaneers with me, Fumane after Cape Town City won, Orlando Pirates won. Not the greatest of games, but one of the privileges I think we have lately is to be able to sit and say Pirates didn't have a great game, and yet Pirates didn't lose. So that's one of the things that I think even going into this video, I can take as a positive is that, most of the time, or some of the times that I've sat here and have had to talk about Pirates not playing well, that's because the opposition has scored maybe in the last minute or whatever, and there's usually no second leg. If there's a second leg, and if the second leg is going to be at Orlando Stadium, and Pirates didn't lose that game, I think it's one of those things that you can take heart in. But like I said, not the best game. I can be entirely honest about that. It started out as though it was going to be a great game for Orlando Pirates. As soon as the starting 11s are out, I'm licking my lips thinking that, the bravery of the head coach, Jose Rivero, to start with Talent Mbata in the midfield, Kabelo Dlamini, Patrick Maswanganyi, he's making a statement. And the statement he's making is that we're not going to go to Cape Town, even though it's away, and try and defend there. We're going to go there, we're going to assert ourselves, and we're going to try and dominate that game. And that's one of the things that I think we should take as a positive. I think there's a lot to be taken out of that, even though the game doesn't go. But one of the things I always sit here and say is that there's so much about the mentality of the team that, if it kind of goes unnoticed. We are obviously fans, we like results, we like the outcome of games, but we really look into the intentions of the team. So the team might have these intentions before the game starts, and at times those things will not turn out to be as the plans were, and we'll usually sort of look at the outcome and go with that and run with that, which I know a lot of people will do after a disappointing 1-1. But something worth doing, I think, from us fans is to look at the intentions of the head coach. What were the intentions? He's playing with a very brave midfield. I know some people I've seen on Twitter where I shouldn't be, but I've been on Twitter and I've seen a couple of comments from people saying, hey, why did you start with that with that midfield three? Very vulnerable, Talent Mbata being the only one who's the holding midfielder. Kabelo Dlamini, obviously, he was once an offensive midfielder, even a wide playmaker, but is now being converted this season to play alongside Talent Mbata. But even more, he's not playing alongside Talent Mbata. He's actually playing as one of the 2-8s alongside Patrick Maswanganyi, and Talent Mbata is playing alone as a pivot. And people have said, why are you doing that? This is a game against Cape Town City, away in a cup game. Why are you being that brave? Why are you risking that much? I think I'm looking at this more long term. And the way that I'm looking at it is the belief that is within the head coach is something we're going to need. I think one of the things that you can't do in football is to win stuff if you don't believe. That's the thing. You've got to have that belief. You've got to have that a sort of ego that you are the best, and so we're going to assert ourselves, we're going to put ourselves out as the best. And I think that's what the head coach is saying. He's coming out, and that's something I've been calling for, by the way, for any of you that have followed this channel for any length of time. And if you haven't, please do click the subscribe button. I'll appreciate it so much. But for anyone who's followed this channel for any length, something I've been calling for is for my head coach to be brave. I think there's a lot of talent at Orlando Pirates. And even when you look at the personnel of the players, I think we're more suited to playing a particular system, and their particular system is the particular system that the head coach played today, which is a 4-2-3-1 with one holding midfielder and 2 8s. If you think about the players that we have in that position, Msele, Baloni, Kimvidi, all of those guys, we're more suited to playing with a V in midfield. And I think Talent Mbata is the guy who's come to Orlando Pirates and sort of unlocked us to be able to play with that, given his ball-playing ability in that deep-lying playmaking role. And so I'm just saying this point to say, before I sort of get into the game, I'm saying this point to say that, there are positives to take. I bet you if we played the same way at Orlando Stadium, we're going to win something like 3-0. But yeah, all is not lost. 1-1 is not such a bad result to take home. Also, it's important to note that Cape Town City is a very good team. I think some of the things that go under the radar is that, when your team is good, and I beg your pardon, with all of this momentum that Orlando Pirates has, you can almost expect that we're just going to rock up and win games. But we are coming up against the professional side, Cape Town City, that is now in the semi-final of the MTN 8, which says something about them. But you don't need me to tell you. You even know, their squad. They've got very good players. Hashim Domingo we saw today. Fortune Makaringe we know all about. He comes from us. Kamhelo Mkocho, seasoned midfielder with a lot of experience abroad. Very good midfielder. Keanu Cupido, amazing. And I'm going to talk a bit more about him. Maybe not, actually. I've spoken so much about him on this podcast because I want Orlando Pirates to get him. But even he, great, solid performance, great player. And this player and that player. But their squad is so star-studded, actually, Cape Town City. I think most of their players are in the top 4 bracket of the Betway Premiership. Anyway, so the point I'm making is that, sometimes we are guilty perhaps of thinking we can just rock up and win games. And it's like, Cape Town City are going to try and stop you, man. You're not just going to rock up and get those points or that win or whatever. So it's not, not all is lost in getting a draw at Cape Town in bad weather against Cape Town City versus Eric Tinkler. We know all about Eric Tinkler. Very good tactician of a head coach. And so I think not all is lost, but maybe getting into the game a bit, sort of my summation of what I saw in that game is I already spoke about playing a 3-man midfielder. Out the blocks, Orlando Pirates, you can see what the plan is. They're targeting Mkhize at right back, trying to isolate Relebogile Mofokeng versus him. And I mean, even when I see the back four of, Cape Town City, the first thing I'm thinking is that Keanu Cupido looks like he's the only one who's a natural centre-back there. And even he is more of a wide centre-back. So I'm already looking at that and thinking, they're there for the taking, these. If we are direct, we can, they're there for the taking. We can score a lot of goals against them. And, while at that, massive shout out to Keanu Cupido. Fantastic defender. I think, he gave a seasoned performance. He gave a one-man, it almost seemed like it was a one-man war stopping Orlando Pirates. And that wall was Keanu Cupido. He's making blocks. He's also very involved in their build-up play. He's very involved in them going direct. Very good passer, stopping Pirates at their tracks, anticipating stuff, making interceptions. Yeah, fantastic player. And again, I've spoken about him on this podcast. I think Orlando Pirates, for that right-back position, which we have signed Dino van Rooyen, and I'm happy about, before someone misquotes me, I would have loved to have Keanu Cupido in that position because I just think that he would add a dynamic that we don't have, and then some. But yeah, as soon as we come out, we're targeting that Mkhize side and we get a lot of joy, which ends in a goal very early in the game. Flowers again to, Relebogile Mofokeng, who seems to be growing by the game. This is a guy who hasn't turned 20 yet. I keep needing to remind myself every time that I see him play. So this is a guy who's still 19 years old. And when I think about when I was 19 years old, I actually remember how good Mofokeng is. And again, great display from him, presence of mind to be able to take on players. Also, one of the other things is, I mean, someone can sort of fact check me, but I think it was very windy in Cape Town. It didn't seem like the head coach even came out and spoke about that. The conditions weren't great, the pitch conditions. But, you know, for Mofokeng to be able to turn people still and, you know, receive, be able to control the ball, that sort of thing, is just showing his quality. He's very good, and he's the one that gets the first goal for us. And maybe while at that, I can give a shout out to Thabiso Sesane, who I'm often on here criticizing for his passing. But yeah, made a great pass, direct, finds Mofokeng. Mofokeng turns Mkhize, and I think it's Mkhize who he turns, and he finds, you know, the back of the net for us. And so when that game starts, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be, you know, raining goals in Cape Town. But yeah, one of the things that I think they did well, if I can be entirely honest, one of the things that I think they did really well actually is, you know, it's something that early on in the game I'm thinking, hey, this is not working out for Cape Town City, this plan, what they're doing. And what they do is they're playing a back four. I think they're playing a 4-4-2 actually. They've got Nyama and Mkhize as their fullbacks. And then they've got Gonzalez on the left wing, and Jaden Rhodes on the right wing. However, the fluidity of these four players that I just named, and then they've got you know, Kamkhela Mkojo and Fortune Makaringa in the center of midfield. But the fluidity of these wide players is that at times it seems like they've got a five, because Gonzalez, he can form sort of a back five, or Jaden Rhodes sometimes will then assist Mkhize at right back, and then they can form a five that way, where Gonzalez is a winger, but then they've got a five with Jaden Rhodes who will then assist the right back. However, when they're in possession of the ball, you will see Mkhize, you know, invert into the center of midfield, and then you'll see Nyama as well invert into the center of midfield, which then pushes Fortune Makaringa to go and join Hashim Domingo to be sort of, you know, 2 10s, and then they'll have. So I think where they won the game, by the way, this is where I think Cape Town City won the game. I think they outnumbered us in midfield. They had at times 5 people and had that numerical advantage against us, that superiority of more numbers against our 3, which often led or meant that, you know, Maswanganyi had to drift and sort of, you know, vacate in between the lines and drop and want to find the ball, receive the ball outside of their sort of box or I think it's called a pentagon if it's got five sides. He was going outside of that shape of the midfield of Cape Town City to try and receive outside of them. But we all know that to be dangerous as a number 10, you've got to receive in between the lines. You can't go outside because you've still got to penetrate through the lines. And that's where we found trouble. I think even the tactic of, you know, Saleng playing more centrally. I think I saw Saleng play more centrally today, and Munyani be the one that is giving us the width on the right. It just felt like they had, you know, a lot of men in midfield. And every time we tried to come out, they stopped us, especially in the second half. We were unable to make any sort of progression from, you know, our own half going out, and they would stop us. And to be fair, they were playing on second balls at times. But I think they were even first on those second balls, which I think they grew in that confidence as the second half is going along. And I think that's where Cape Town City won the game. Look, the match stats, I usually don't like to trust those because they can tell a different story to the match that you watch with your eyes. Cape Town City, according to the match stats, had a lot of chances. Maybe that is reflected a little bit in the game, but it wasn't one of those games. I mean, for some of you who might be watching this without having watched the game, which I would really recommend that you watch the game before you watch this. But for those of you who could be here for one reason or another and haven't watched the game, you might see the match stats and those will overly be in the favor of Cape Town City in terms of attempts, shots on target, and that sort of thing. It didn't feel like that in the game. Maybe it's just me. It didn't feel like they were threatening us that much. It did feel like they were stopping us from coming out, but it didn't feel like they were creating these chances where they would have. In the first half, it even felt like Orlando Pirates was all over Cape Town City. It at least felt like that for me, yet we didn't control the game. And I mean, this could be a problem on the day, but it also is an overall Orlando Pirates thing with me, which I say that, you know, we're very good at counter-pressing, winning the ball back, creating that attack immediately after winning the ball back. However, when it comes to, you know, controlling the game, holding the shape, where the immediate pounce is not on, we're not very good. I think we've still got some way to go, but yeah, maybe that's just not the way of football of this head coach, which is fine. I'm not against that. I'm just saying that, you know, in these games where you sort of sometimes need to hold on to it a little bit more and carve them, you know, in possession, moving them around, that's not our greatest strength. And yeah, maybe let me not go on for too long. The last thing I'll do is sort of maybe look at, you know, individual players that, you know, I would like to highlight. And before, again, someone misquotes me, I want to say something about Kabelo Dlamini, which is that, and I often need to do this because the comments do get crazy, to be entirely honest with you. I'm going to put a disclaimer to say, listen, I think Kabelo Dlamini is fantastic. Anyone who's watched this platform for any length again knows that I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the most talented players in this league anyway. However, one thing that you sort of see reoccurring, which is a bit of his downfall, because at times when you need him to, you know, up his game, he doesn't, is when we are under the cosh. When Pirates is playing a game where we need rescuing, you can't count on him. He's usually at his best when Pirates are already winning, when Pirates is not yet winning, when, you know, when the vibe is good, when the mood is good. Kabelo Dlamini is the best player at Orlando Pirates. But also the opposite is true. When Pirates is not playing well, Kabelo Dlamini is the worst. I mean, you will have seen, just case in point, there's, you know, a particular play where he sort of just does a back heel, and I'm thinking he's feeling under pressure, he's feeling the heat of the game, and he's not carrying it. And yeah, it's such a shame, you know, the talent that he is. I expect him to be more at it, even when, you know, things aren't going our way, to sort of like grab the game by the scruff of its neck. But you often have to substitute out Kabelo Dlamini when things aren't going well. And the sad part is, in terms of like-for-like replacements, these players that are playing for us, Talent Mbata, Patrick Maswanganyi, and Kabelo Dlamini, are really irreplaceable. I mean, we still want to see a bit more of Selailo Raseboja in terms of what is he about. We didn't see much in preseason. However, when I think about sort of these offensive players that can create magic, there's very few of those. You know, we've got a lot of workhorses at Orlando Pirates, which I appreciate very much. Those guys are very well needed in our team. But you know that they're not gonna, you know, create these attacks for us. They're usually just about, you know, the tactical stuff, keeping us in shape, keeping possession, that sort of thing. I'm thinking of people like Miguel Tim, fantastic guy, very good passer of the football. However, he's not going to see that chance-creating play, right? Maybe he does a few times, but nowhere near people like Kabelo Dlamini who can just thread it, you know, into the feet of Patrick Maswanganyi, and just like that, we are attacking. And so that's the sad part, is that when people like Dlamini are not on form, like today you will have seen, when people like Dlamini are not on form, Patrick Maswanganyi is not on form, Talent Mbata maybe is playing well, but he's just not, you know, he's not having his best game. And then it's like, what do you do now? There's no plan. even the substitutions that you will bring on are just not going to change the game for you. And that's just a tough position to be in, and I think that's something we're going to need to grow. Whether it still needs addressing in the transfer market, I'm going to, come out and say yes. I think that needs addressing. I still think we are one top player away from just being a complete team. And that player is needed in the midfield, in my opinion. Because it is in these times when you've got to substitute out Patrick Maswanganyi or Kabelo Dlamini that you realize we don't have anyone who can come in and sort of give us still that what we want from Kabelo Dlamini, maybe in a different way, but we don't have anyone who can do that for us. Bar maybe Karim Kimvwidi. But yeah, let me leave it here. There's still a lot to talk about with regards Cape Town City, because you know that we are playing them again in the second leg on Saturday. So I'm going to be sitting on this chair, Lord willing, talking about that game, building it up and previewing it after that. But for now, let me leave it here. Up the Mighty Bucks. Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video from Talking Buccaneers. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our future content.